What's up, people? What is up? Hope everybody's doing good. Hopefully, everyone's doing well. It is Friday, it's the end of the week, and my body is saying, that is it. The week is done. It's done, 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 done. Um, Riley, I'm waiting to hear this one. I've had this question too, then decided there were just some things that I wouldn't understand, but God knows that if He wanted me to know, He would let me know. Well, what I can do for you is um, kind of explain a couple of things about it, um, and then we can go from there. Um, because my take is a little different than most. Um, so we'll see where this leads you. If it leads you to an understanding or not, I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing you anything. Um, the topic crossed my mind a couple of years ago, and I never paid it much mind after that. And then today, I decided it's good to tackle because I figured something out a couple of weeks ago about it. I'm not saying that this is the be all and end all, okay? But in my estimation, um, because it's not um, fully explained in the book, um, it's kind of left up to speculation and hearsay anyway. So it wasn't even something I could feel bad about having my own opinion on, simply because there was nothing listed about it. So we are going to dive into something here. In Genesis 4, we'll get the story of something here. Um, chapter chapter 1. And Adam had relations with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. Later, she gave birth to Cain's brother Abel. It doesn't say how much later, just said later. Now, Abel was the keeper of sheep, while Cain was a tiller of the soil. So, of course, in time, Cain brought some fruit of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel brought the best portions of his flock. And the Lord looked on at with favor on Abel's offering, but he had no regard for Cain's offering. So Cain became very angry, and his countenance fell. Why are you angry? Said the Lord to Cain. And why has your countenance fallen? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you refuse to do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires you, but you must master it. Then Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. And the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother? Sounds familiar when God comes in and says, where is something? Knowing full well what happened, right? He did the same thing with Adam. Adam, where are you? Cain, where's your brother? It's kind of, you know, I don't know. He answered, am I my brother's keeper? What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed and banished from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood. When you till the ground, it will no longer yield its produce to you. You will be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. But Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, this day you have driven me from the face of the earth, and from your face will I be hidden. I will be a fugitive and wanderer on the earth. Whoever finds me will kill me. Not so, said the Lord. If anyone slays Cain, then Cain will be avenged sevenfold. And the Lord placed a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out to the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now, there is no suggestion of time, of passage of time. They don't tell you exactly how long it's been. They don't even give you an idea of how long it's been since they're leaving up the garden. They just say some time has passed, and at this point, something happened. And at the point of Cain's exile from the presence of God, he went to live in a whole other place called Nod. Now, for Nod to exist, this is where my mind starts going down rabbit holes, okay? For Nod to exist, I would think there would be inhabitants of Nod. Because you heard Cain say, whoever finds me will kill me. He's anticipating people finding him. He's also anticipating people. Okay? So it's not like you can say Cain is concerned about the parents having more kids and the kids coming after him. Or he would have said, if my brothers find me, they would kill me. No, he said, people. Now, how long has it been if Cain and Abel were the first two born? What is up with him wondering about people? And I often wondered, is it because he's just mentioning the essential people? Because remember, the Bible is filled with individuals. It mentions Israel in general, but it really harps upon individuals and their life. It doesn't go into everyone's life, just the essential people. And so when it comes to the individual people, he'll go into times and stamps and all that stuff, but for the most part, he doesn't. This is one of those cases. He does not harp on Cain because you don't hear much about Cain after the fall. After he leaves, you hear a couple of passages about him, but not a whole lot. Um, so it goes from him going to Nod, east of Eden. A couple of things are established already: direction, time, um, consequence into human psyche, naming of locations. So it says now in 17, and Cain had relations with his wife. That's all it says. It said he went to Nod and then he had relations with his wife. He's already been hitched and now he's already have a kid. Just like that. Nothing, no information. And she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain built a city and named it after his son Enoch. Now to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mahuel, and Mahuel was the father of Methuselah, and Methuselah was the father of Lamech. And Lamech married two women and named them Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal, who was the father of those who dwell in tents and livestock, and his brother was named Jubal, who was the father of all who played harp and flute. Do you see how many? You see how much time has lapsed here? Okay, I want people to understand how much time has lapsed. Lapsed so much that instrumentation is there, the way of living, tenting, livestock. There is a myriad of things that took place from fall to there, and they give zero time frame about it. Nothing. Okay? I'm saying all this for a purpose. So let's say, for instance, that Cain learned from his father Adam how to handle animals, and he also learned how to till. How long of a time frame are we talking? How old was Abel when he died? How old was Cain when he left? How old was Adam? How old was any? Nothing listed here about that. So, did some digging, and from what people have been saying, is that they believe that it was his sister, that Cain found a wife in his sister, which would mean that they both got exiled, or at least one of the kids went to Nod and happened to find her brother, and or it was a whole nother person. So people went looking, and a few of them looked into the book of Jubilees, the counter to the book of Enoch, those extra books that they say was left out of the Bible. And they say that her name was Avan. Now, I'm not concerned about her name. I'm not really concerned that the book of Jubilees might have that in there. I want to propose a secondary thought. Um, if God can create, if God can create, and he listed the creation of man as Adam and Eve, could he have created a wife for Cain? Could he have made a wife for Cain? Because a lot of the time I kept thinking, well, he would have had to found another human. He would have to found. He'd have to find. He'd have to find. He'd have to find, and then But there is nothing that says God can't create a wife for Cain. He's the creator. If he wanted to, he could. Oh, but that's not inside the scope of the Bible, is it not? Is it not? Now, I'm not suggesting that the theory is correct um, at all. But the mere fact that they don't suggest that Cain found his sister and they married, they just suggest that he had relations with his wife. Either he left with one, had one at the time of his leaving, that his sister was his wife at the time, they just didn't mention it, and they both were exiled. They don't mention the daughters being born at the time that Cain was exiled. They simply say he killed Cain, God exiled him. So let's suggest that he was married at the time of his exile to one of his sisters, and he left, went to Nod, had more kids. Theory number one, pretty sound. I can see it possible. Theory number two, Nod was already populated with more people that God had created outside after they left the garden. Theory number three, by the time Cain killed Abel, Adam and Eve had children before or afterwards. So let's say that they had them afterwards, because they seem to say that Cain was the firstborn, but they kept saying firstborn male. Never said anything about firstborn females or what other females were there. They just said to mention the males, Cain and Abel. Mention Cain and Abel. So suppose they had daughters and the daughters moved on to something else. Normally, that wouldn't be the case because the daughters would not be allowed to do that. So, were there men outside of where they were? Possibly. In my, I don't think the giants had showed up yet. tomorrow. That happened a little bit later. Um, so then it led me to believe one of two things had to be true, and I can only see it going two ways. Um, One, I get that, Milton, but here's what I'm saying: they don't mention timeline. Her having two sons and three daughters do not tell us the sequence. You get me? So even if they had three daughters, when was each born? Was Cain, then Abel, then daughters, or Cain, daughters, Abel, or daughters, Cain, Abel? Because, like I said, they have it as the firstborn son. Because all it says, Adam had relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. With the Lord's help, I have brought forth a man. Later, she gives birth to Cain's brother. They don't mention the children after or before. They don't mention time, which leads us to speculate. Okay. And so where do you get the timeline from? Where do you get the timeline of it? It's been theorized that Adam and Eve did have kids outside of Cain and Abel. Um, Again, I know they had other children. My question to myself was, what order? That's what I thought too, Beta. Now, let's say it was his sister, left with her, went to Nod. They stayed in Nod, blah, blah, blah. That would be theory one that's more plausible than others, okay? And then theory two, that could be true, that there were created people outside of Adam and Eve for the purpose of procreation on earth. Um, I lend more to the first one. Um, we have no idea Adam and Eve were on earth before Cain and Abel, yet this is so much speculation. We have no idea Adam and Eve were on earth before Cain and Abel. What do you mean? What do you mean? So I'm tending more to lean towards that they had Cain and Abel, and the time frame of the birth to the time frame of the attack on Abel was long enough for them to have children outside of those two to be grown enough to be in children making age. Okay. Um, that's the only other theory I could see. Um, and Adam knew his wife again and bore a son. Nowhere have I read to them to having a daughter as anyone else. You've never read of Cain and of Adam and Eve having a daughter. Nowhere. Um, Nowhere. It says they had sons and daughters. It just never gave you names. They had many children. Um, Again, it's just a matter of time frame. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's a matter of time frame. Okay, so to lend to the concept that there were people outside the garden, could God have created? Of course, He could have. I mean, come on, He could have if He wanted to. He could. Did He? Didn't say. And yes, Eve was given the name of the mother of all living, but that could also mean because she was first of the childbearing type. So, um, my theory led me to believe that it was his sister, and he left with his sister wife off to Nod. As for why Nod was named, that again, who named Eden? Okay. God named Eden. God created Eden. It was his creation and his to name. He could also name any other place outside of Eden for himself. He didn't need to have man name that at all. Okay. So we have a lot of time in between the birth of Cain and the exile of Cain and the birth of Cain's children. So technically, yes, he could have had a sister and he could have had his sister as his wife, and boom, case closed. Don't know the name of his wife, nor do I need to know the name of his wife. Um, so here we have a dilemma, right? For some, maybe for not for some. For me, it was a dilemma. Why do I need to care about where Cain found his wife? What difference would it make to me where Cain found his wife? And so I start to question myself. Why does that matter to you? Because in one vein, it could lead me to a place where I have more questions than answers. And those questions can become faith shaking. So I decided to do the one thing I could do: ask God. Ask God about it. Say, yo, hey, okay, Cain. What's up? What's the deal with Cain? What's the deal with Cain? And I didn't hear anything. I didn't get no epiphany. I didn't get no answer, nothing like that. So I started hunting some more and again, and then nothing showed up. Nothing showed up until I realized one major thing that I was missing. And I mentioned it earlier. God is God and I am not. Even if God decided to make a wife for Cain, he did it. If God said, have your sister as the wife because that's the purest DNA they had around then, there's your wife. He could do that. The mere fact that he did not mention a name, but mentioned the sons' names, matters because it's of no consequence in the grand scheme of the lineage. But I still wanted to know, okay? Still want to know. Come on, tell me. But he didn't answer me. He didn't answer me, and I stopped asking until last week, the week before last. And then I got a response and stirring, a stirring. And the stirring was this. This was my stirring. So I read the verse again. So Cain went out to the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And Cain had relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain built a city and named it after his son Enoch. And there was my answer. Do you see it? Do you see the answer? Does anyone else get the answer? It's right there. Plain as I didn't realize it was as plain as the nose on my face. It was right there the whole time. Anyone else catch it? No? No one else catch it? Let me know if anyone else caught what I just caught. No? No one else caught it? Okay. It said, Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And Cain had relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain built a city and named it after his son Enoch. Anyone see it? It's right there, right there. I agree, and I think definitely it is possible to have the incestual relationship may not have had severe health issues under the creation. I honestly don't know the answer to the question. I think it's most important that all Cain was protected by the mark, and was the. I agree. I agree. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Either way, whether by creation or by the Big Bang, everything's incestuous in the beginning. Everything is incestuous in beginnings, whether you believe in God or not. Okay. The further we get away from the original seed, the more different the outcome. Either way. So I'm not even concerned about the ancestral side of it. Um, that was the way it was supposed to be from the get go. To multiply, multiply. That's just the way it is. Okay. But did anybody else catch? Did anyone else catch it? No? No one caught it? No one caught it? You have been listening to this channel for how long and you still don't catch it? Really? Y'all don't catch it? No? Wow. It's really right there. It's like right there. I'll read it one more time. I'll read it one more time and see if you catch it. Okay? One more time. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And Cain had relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain built a city and named it after his son Enoch. Do you guys see the answer to Cain's wife right there? Yeah, do y'all see it? It's like right there. Nope. Nope. His wife was not named Nod, and it's not about the presence of the Lord. No, and it doesn't say he took his wife with him. Okay, so Lillian caught Lillian caught the crux of the thing I was trying to get to. Cain had relations with his wife, right? Now, if you've watched anything about my channel, there is one thing I say a lot of the time. I don't say it all the time, but I say it a lot of the time. I always say, usually what he puts down, he means to put down, and what he says, he means to say. He usually puts down what he wants to put down and says what he needs to say. He says, and Cain had relations with his wife. That's all. The answer was right there. That's all I need to know about Cain's wife, that it was his wife. Cain knew his wife, and she had Enoch. He made it a point to name the sons. Made it a point to name Adam and Eve. All of the people surrounding this so called wife were named, but not her. Not where she came from, not her name. Nothing is mentioned about her. Speculation is all he left you to. Now, when God leaves you to speculation, 98% of the time, the speculation is on you, not actual speculation. Because we need to know something. We need to know. When all he said was Cain knew his wife. That when it hit me just like bam. Like it almost like he shook me and said, Marlon, look, bro. Cain left my presence. Cain knew his wife. That's all you need to know. If there was something else you needed to know, I would have put it there. I would have put it there. When that, so they say biblically she has no name, right? So there was a book called the Book of Jubilees, also known as the Lesser Genesis. And it supposedly was written somewhere around 135 to 105 BC, something like that. Um, and they say they have a name for her. Um, they have a name for Seth's wife. They have a name for everybody, for Abel's wife. Although the Bible never mentions Abel being married, like at all. So this particular book um, gives names of so-called wife and not even the lineage or timeline either. Okay. So again, I go back to the one we have. I go back to what we have. He knew his wife, and she gave birth to Enoch. There is a book of Enoch. No mention. No mention. However, he was away from the presence of the Lord anyway. But I will keep saying what he needs to say, he will say. And what he needed to say, he said. I would suggest you go read them. I have no problem with people reading the book of Enoch. Have at it. I did. I had to do it so I can get the book of Enoch broken down. Um, a lot of what Enoch says in his book is littered throughout the Old Testament. Like it's almost like you have a word assist book. The book of Enoch is. It doesn't give you a whole lot of extra stuff. It might just go into a little more detail about the thing, but it's not giving you anything that the Bible doesn't have. It really doesn't. It mentions the fallen ones, the giants, and it mentions the giants in the Bible. It mentions that they laid with the men, sons of men, and the sons of women. They mention that in the regular book. It's just another book that emphasizes something that might have happened. It mentions Noah. Noah's in the Bible. So you don't lose anything with the book of Enoch. You don't gain a whole lot with the book of Enoch. Maybe some more stuff to stumble on, but that's the speculation there, Fleming, is that they don't know which Enoch wrote it. There's speculation that it was a different Enoch than the son of Cain. So, which is why I don't give it a whole lot of merit. His existence on earth seems to cross paths with a whole bunch of other characters in the Bible. So that's why I don't give it much mind. But as for this particular topic, when God doesn't give you an outright answer, there's a pretty obvious statement that it's not that valuable to where you are. I don't think it said Cain was cursed to live forever. It just said Cain was cursed. This is what it says exactly, right? This is what it says. Um, the voice of the Lord, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed and banished from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your blood. Where you will, when you till the ground, it will no longer yield produce for you. You will be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Never told anything about him living forever or the curse lasting on him until he died. It just said he was cursed to wander the earth. Um, Again, that's one of the things that just gets you bogged down. Here's the bigger picture that I got from it, um, is that when Cain messed up in the point of murder, God didn't do it in kind because he had a purpose for Cain. To the point where his punishment was, you no longer be in my presence, but I won't let anybody kill you either. Cain and Seth were the two lines of men that came out. Now, a lot of speech about Cain and the curse and the people today and the people of old and who is the descendants of Cain and are they cursed forever? And so if Cain is cursed and blah 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 blah, what is there a lineage of people that are forever cursed? And no, doesn't matter because Jesus showed up. It doesn't matter because Jesus showed up. Um, there are a number of supplementary books that give credence to the Bible. The woman with the issue of blood, her name was Veronica, and yet we focus on the situation rather than her person. That's because that's the point. You shouldn't be focused on the person. There is much in the Bible that some have not reached understanding, and by going into certain aspect, it can serve to confuse rather than enlighten. Agreed. A lot of the Bible can confuse you if you're going in it to get something out of it that it don't intend to give you. Um, I don't go into reading Dr. Seuss to find C.S. Lewis, nor do I go into C.S. Lewis expecting to find Dr. Seuss. The woman with the issue of blood, name inconsequential. Why is the name inconsequential? Because it's the result of her faith that mattered. It's the result of her faith that mattered. It's the enactment of her faith that mattered. That we don't know the name of the guy on the cross either. The criminal, don't know his name, nor do we care what his name was. We don't. Why is it that we don't care? Because it wasn't mentioned. It doesn't mention. Okay, so tell me, what was the name of the Ethiopian eunuch? Tell me his name. Anybody? Anybody tell me the name of the Ethiopian eunuch? Anybody? No, Philip was not the Ethiopian eunuch. He was the one speaking to the eunuch. Philip spoke to the Ethiopian eunuch. So exactly, it didn't say. But his story gets repeated all over the place as the Ethiopian eunuch. We take that, no problem. Ethiopian eunuch, no problem. Why is it difficult to take Cain knew his wife? Why is that? Why is that difficult? Why is it difficult to accept Ethiopian eunuch, no name, but Cain's wife? No, we need to know her name, and we need to know where she came from, and we need to. No, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Everyone in the Bible listed with a name was given a name on purpose. I don't know where she came from. I don't know her name. I just know that Cain was exiled from the presence of God for the act of murder, and he had a wife. He knew her, and they had children. So, what is the purpose then of study? I have a friend in the chat room right now, Jaylee. He's in school to be for theology. The goal of study is to enhance faith. A lot of people go into study, though, for it to become faith. Many people will go into studying the Bible to find a version of faith that's all based on knowledge of how much one knows. Not what one knows, but how much you know. I would much rather know quality over quantity. And I've been slowly learning that I don't need to know everything. I just need to know one thing. I just need to know one thing, and that's Christ. That's all I really need to know. That's all I really need to know. Um, Let me find this one thing here. I want to make sure I find. There it is. Okay, that's the one I wanted to find. Now, you remember um, Solomon was pretty wise. Um, he was known as the wisest man ever. That's his claim to fame. So he wrote Ecclesiastes, right? And in chapter 12, he wrote the whole duty of man. Moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find acceptable words and what was written and what was upright, words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well driven nails given by the shepherd. And further, my son, be admonished by these. Of the making of books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Lord and keep his commandments. This is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or ill. Study, 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 study. No more, no more, no, 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 more, more, more. In the end, the whole of man is the fear of God. The fear of God leads you to an understanding of God because you want to know more. What I don't end up doing is trying to find things that he never asked me to look for because he listed it. He lists stuff that we need. He gives historical context to the lineage of Christ. He lines it all up and gives you what you need to understand that lineage because that's the only lineage that matters. It simply is. No, I didn't go to Bible college. I've never, I don't believe in those things at all. Sorry, I just don't. Um, I think the Bible is simple enough that anyone who reads it can understand it. That's my belief. I believe the Bible is the simplest book out there. Men complicate it. Men complicate it by looking to add stuff that they want to believe, and they go about painting the book in their light, not God's. I don't believe in doing that. If it says something, it says it. And it took me forever to understand that that applied to that exact line about Cain as well. If I meant to say something, Marlon, I would have said it. Don't you think I'd say it? I've said multiple things elsewhere, just fine. But I didn't say nothing about that. Why? It don't matter, Marlon. It don't matter. It don't matter. I don't need to delve into the historical timeline even of how old was Cain when he had. What does it matter? Because you know why? There were other places where he mentioned exact ages of people and the time frame in between children, and he names everything that happened. He names everything that happens to certain individuals from birth to death, time stamped and everything. And then with others, nothing. They were born and they died. That that's it. There were tons of people that just showed up in the book by name, no other mention of them, gone. Others, you could track their entire life with numbers to back it up. Why? Intentional. Because it's important. That particular person is of import. Everything that takes place with that person was of import. When he doesn't put it there, it must mean something. It's not of consequence. And if it's not of consequence, you end up sidetracking your walk with an inconsequential subject. Why do that? Case in point, let's read this one. One of my best friends developed a fire for God, and then he went to college to study for it, and it actually caused him to stumble and struggle with his faith. I tried to help him, but he was struggling with believing God was good. And he was super intelligent. I could quote any verse, and he could tell me where it was and what it was, and know the context. He was amazing and understood it in Koine Greek. About a month after talking to me about this, he overdosed. Um, the studying of symbols and the studying of books and the studying of all that stuff brings you out of grace, back into religion, and back into law. And you know what law will do for you? Law will keep you stuck on the old man that God is asking you to get rid of. I think what he means by a fire for God is that he was on a path of wanting to know more about said God. That initial taste pushes you to want to know more, which is why it's pivotal for leaders to be true to God's word. Because if they're not, they can do to people what they did to that young man. You get them in ready and roaring to find out who God is, and then you bog them down with, Cain had a wife. So we need to figure out what Cain's wife's name was. And they're trying to ask you, what about God? What about, okay, hold on. We're not talking about God right now. We're talking about Cain. And we're talking about uh, the translations here. Okay. That's what we're going to talk about. Which translation should you use? And we're also going to talk about when was that book written and by whom and how many things there was done to preserve it. And then we're going to talk about how to preach. We're going to teach you how to speak when you preach. I get that, but what about uh, what about God? I want to know about God. We'll get to that, but you have to be able to read and quote every verse in this book. You have to be able to, otherwise you cannot be a preacher. I get that, but I really want to know about God. Like, I just want to know about God. And the book will be taken by people and harped on to the point where the person no longer sees the need to know God. They become quoters, form of godliness. He was struggling with how God was just for killing the Canaanites, but he knew all the common answers. He had just fallen from the grace and truth, as you said. You want to know why teachers will be held to such high punishment if they screw up? I'll give you an example of why it's. You are a caretaker, and a person brings their elderly mother to you to take care of. They are going away for a few months, but they need to make sure that their mom is taken care of. They tell you that their mom is the most precious thing they have. They tell you everything about their mom. They take an entire half of a day to walk you through everything about their mother. And then they leave. And you, as the caretaker, with all that information, decide none of that's really important. I am going to focus on the fact that I need to make her look as good as possible for people. In fact, I'm going to open up my care facility for people to see what an elderly person looks like. And in so doing, I'm going to make sure she has the best outfit. I'm going to make sure that she smells really good. Her room looks amazing. But then you forget to feed her, you forget to shower, you don't talk to her, you don't do any of that. But she's on display. The son comes back to you a couple of months later, and he recognizes his mom, but barely, because she looks nothing like the person he left you. Trust and believe me that you're not going to enjoy the outcome of that situation if you are the caretaker. You're not. That sun's going to light into you because I left you with one of my most precious, precious things, and you treated it like that. You neglected it. You neglected it to the point where I can't even recognize. I still know my mother. My mother herself will never change, just like my word won't. But what you have done to it is dress it up in something that is absolutely not her. I told her she likes blue. You put her in purple. Her skin can't handle cotton. You put her in cotton. Now she has an outbreak. You want to know why teachers are going to be held to a higher account? It's because they've taken what is precious to God and ruined it all for the sake of display. They will take it and destroy it for their own gain. They won't tell anybody about the true nature of the thing they're seeing. They will lie about it. They'll cover it up. They'll make it look pretty. Make a pretty presentation has to be all it's about. Going into things that they have no reason to go into, speculating on this, speculating on that, but not giving people the simple thing of what it actually says. This is so and so's grandmother. This is so and so's mom. This is so and so. She was a blah, blah, blah. She loves the color blue. She cannot be in cotton. But what if she looks better? She cannot be in cotton. But what if we make a blend that she cannot be in cotton? That is what the caretaker should be saying to anyone that comes to see that elderly woman. Not trying to placate to the people coming to see her. The woman has a story set in stone. She has a family set in stone. She has requirements set in stone. You, as a caretaker, have no other criteria but to put that forward. And the Lord will judge harshly men who do not present what He is saying. Cain's wife, inconsequential. It tells me he knew her. They had Enoch. Case closed. Thank you, God. He had a wife. Do I need to know the name of the man heckling at Noah? Do I need to know the names of the people heckling at Noah? Or just call them the people? Do I need to know the names of everyone in the crowd that were at the bottom of the mountain when Moses got the tablets? No. Do I need to know the man that actually built the golden statue? No, I don't. Don't need to know it. I just need to know it happened. There is a reason why he didn't go into the detail. I disagree with Marlon about being able to just read the Bible and understand it. Because of the language, its time was very much unknown to us unless we get this help and assistance. And that's why he's struggling with this question. I'm struggling with the question. What question am I struggling with exactly? What question exactly am I struggling with? Please do tell. I would love to know the question I'm struggling with. Please do tell me, Scott. I am curious as to what I am struggling with. Please tell me. I would surely like to know. I'm waiting. Because of the language, its time was very much unknown to us unless we get this kind of help. So please tell me, what am I struggling to answer? Adal. My question was, are they tested more than us? Teachers are not necessarily tested more than you. Teachers have a higher requirement of faithfulness to the word because they take the mantle of saying to you something about the word from a position of authority. Anyone in the position of authority abusing that authority will be held and should be held to a higher account. Plain and simple. The answer was given already about where Cain's wife came from. It had to be a sister or a niece. I want you guys to read this. I'm the one confused, right? I'm the one unsure. The answer was already given about Cain, about where Cain, his wife came from. The answer is there. This is his answer. It had to be a sister or niece, and this isn't considered sin at the time because it's part of God's plan for populating the earth. I'm going to assume that you meant the word sin. No one said it was. No confusion there. And if you're so sure about where Cain's wife came from, why are you then confused as to which was it, sister or niece? Which was it? Since you're so sure, you said the answer was given. If the answer was given, what's the answer? What's the answer? Go for it. Tell me. Tell me. I'll wait. I'll wait. It eliminates the question for someone outside. I think we already established which direction I went. If you were late, that's on you. If you were late, that's on you. Not you still haven't answered my question as to how I'm the one unable to answer the question. And for someone who said Genesis 4, this is what Genesis 4 said in 16. Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, dwelled in Nod, east of Eden, found his wife, knew his wife, conceived and bore Enoch. Still not a name, still not a time frame, still doesn't matter. Still doesn't matter. It only said he knew his wife, and that's it. Had Enoch, built a city, case closed. Case closed. That is all I need to know is that Cain got a wife. He knew said wife. They had Enoch. That is as far as I need to go. Don't need her name. Don't need who she came from. Don't need to know if it was his sister. Don't need to know if it was his niece. I don't care. Doesn't need to know if it was someone God created. Don't know. Don't care. Because it said he knew his wife. What's valuable is that Cain had a wife when he got Enoch. Not confusing. not unanswerable, pretty straightforward, and very inconsequential to the grand scheme. And the Bible is very easy to understand. It is when we take the Bible and we try to read into it what we want is where we run into problems. Case in point, Jesus wept. I can guarantee you money that there are scholars everywhere that have 19 different answers as to why Jesus wept, what did he weep for? Is weep really what it meant? What did it mean by weep? Is it the right word that he used? What version of wept? Was it bitter tears? Was it crying for the death of his friend? What was it? He wept. He, he wept. Jesus Jesus wept. He wept. Lazarus was his friend. Jesus wept. I don't, even if he wept for the people's unbelief of him bringing Lazarus back from the dead, or he wept because his friend died, in either case, he wept. It's it is easy. Jesus wept. I- We complicate we complicate God so much when he's just trying to make it simple. He only tries to make it simple. He makes it simple. If you are out there and you have questions about things biblically, you read something and it's confusing. You have two options at that point. Take it to a preacher, teacher, rabbi, whatever. Or you can take it to the author and he can clarify it for you. I keep telling people I don't ever want to be accused of putting my own take on the Bible. I don't want to ever put my take on his word. I just want to take his word for what it is. It's He didn't want me to pontificate upon the writings. He gave pretty clear information. A lot of times we try to break it down because we want to feel less guilt. We want to justify a behavior. We want to solidify a belief instead of just going to the word to solidify who God is and just do what he says. Just, just do what he says. It's, no, it's not important to know why. It is not important to know why. Why is it important to know why? 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 Please tell me why it's important. I'll wait. This is a good one. Please tell me why it's important to know why. Please tell me why it's important to know why. Go ahead. And I'll break down for you why it's not important to know why. Or better yet, I'll tell you why you already know why. That's more. I'll tell you exactly why you already know why. But please tell me why you need to know why. I'll wait. He's taking his time to type this one out because it's a long answer. Why is it important for me to know why all the time? Come on, tell me. I'll answer your question for you since you're taking your time to answer. There are two truths about God that has never, ever, ever, nor will it ever, ever, ever change. Okay. God does not lie, and God does not fail. If I know God does not lie, and I know God does not fail, the why of what he tells me to do is inconsequential. I just do it. I don't care if I feel like I should. I don't care how I feel. I don't care if it's upsetting. I don't care if it goes against what I want. It's his. If I say I'm following him, he leads. He doesn't lie. He doesn't fail. I don't need to know why. I don't. I don't need to know why he asked me to do something. I don't need to know why he told me to do it in a certain way. I don't need to know why because it's his process I'm trying to get into. It's not my process. Salvation is not a me thing. Salvation is a him thing. Salvation is a him thing, not a me thing. I don't go into the man's salvation and say, well, you could improve in salvation if you just let people sin a little bit. If you just allow a little bit of sin, you'd get more. You attract more, bees with honey. I don't need to know why. I don't. My God has given me everything I need. He's told me everything I need to know about him. He's shown me the way to find him, and that is all I need to know. It's a copy and paste thing. God's word is very simple. We complicate it because we want to read into it the things we either want or don't want. Stop doing that. Either you believe God is who he is or he's not. Either he's God of all or he's not at all. If you don't like how he is, don't follow him. It would be much rather, I would much rather you not follow him than to follow him and lie about him. It'd be worse for you. It would be worse for you to do that than to just not. Monday, I have a journey, and I hope you guys make it for that one. Should be good. Um, her name is Shirley. She will be on. Shirley Butterworth. So if you are ready for that, please show up. It'd be good. I don't have a schedule next week yet. Again, if you have suggestions, inbox me straight talk mb at outlook.com. The email is also on the channel. If you have a suggestion for a show next week, something you want discussed, send it to me, and we can talk about it. Yes, he is. He's the Asian tea drinker on my channel, in case people wondering. Thank you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Hang out with your fam, and get some rest because I need to get some. I have one more show today, and I will be happy when it's done because I get to go to rest. I need it. This week was a long one, really long. So, as usual, as I say, wisdom calls to you from the street. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself and know